Hey, what's up, guys? So, as a performance coach, I'm always looking for ways to help athletes improve the mental game. The physical too, but in this case, we're talking about the mental game. And so, there's this book I read years ago called The War of Art by Steven Pressfield. Now, when I read it, I wasn't working in the golf industry. And I read it at a time where I was starting a business and I was struggling with this idea of not knowing what to do to get to the next level. And so a good friend of mine recommended this book. It's an amazing book. Now, it's really geared towards more of the creative fields like writers and musicians and artists. But because I'm, again, in this kind of entrepreneurial situation right now as I build my coaching business, I wanted to reread it and see if any of the lessons that I learned back then would apply today. And as I was reading it, I realized that so many of these lessons apply to golf. More specifically, if you're looking to go from an amateur mentality to a professional mentality. And that's what this book is all about. It's about going from amateur to pro, no matter what it is you do. For work, for school, for sport, whatever it is you're trying to do. If you're trying to get from an amateur kind of level to a professional level, there are certain things we need to do. There's a certain mindset that we need to adopt, and that's what this book is all about. And there's one chapter in particular, as I was reading it, I thought it would really apply to golf. Now, whether you're an amateur golfer looking to become a professional golfer, so literally amateur to pro, or if you're an amateur golfer just trying to become the best golfer that you can be, at some point, there's a shift that has to happen in your mindset. And that's what this book is all about, and that's what this one chapter kind of highlights. So I thought I would read it with you and kind of give you my thoughts as we go along, all right? So first of all, what I really love about this book, by the way, if you want to read it, is that each chapter is only like 2 or 3 pages long. So each chapter is a short lesson. And what I like is you read the chapter and then it makes you think. As you can see, I have a bunch of notes in here. So I read this book with a pencil with me because I'm always taking notes and I'm always writing down the lessons that I get or the thoughts that are triggered by the lessons that I'm learning in the book. So the chapter is called Professionals and Amateurs. So it starts aspiring artists, and here I'm replacing artists with golfers. So aspiring golfers, defeated by resistance, share one trait. They all think like amateurs. They have not yet turned pro. So in the book, he talks about resistance as the thing that prevents us from getting to the next level, and resistance obviously will present itself in so many different ways. The way I look at it is resistance is fear, resistance is doubt, resistance is having a victim mentality, resistance is being challenged, facing adversity. These are all forms of resistance. And the difference between amateur and pro is how you're willing to face that resistance, what you're willing to do to move forward and to push through that resistance, all right? So he goes on to say the moment a golfer turns pro is as epochal as the birth of his first child. With one stroke, everything changes. I can state absolutely that the term of my life can be divided into 2 parts, before turning pro and after. So what he's saying here is that at some point, if you're serious about getting to the next level in whatever it is you do, but especially sports and golf, there's going to be a moment when you have to make that decision. You're going to have to decide, all right, I can no longer treat this as a hobby. I can no longer treat this as something I just do for fun. And I have to start thinking about it as a profession, as the fact that I'm going to become a professional at this sport. And that's going to require certain sacrifices. It's going to require a certain mindset to be able to push through the resistance, because what you're trying to accomplish is extremely difficult. Becoming a pro golfer is extremely difficult, especially if you're trying to get to that elite level. But you have to be willing to take on that mindset. You have to start thinking like a professional if you want to even have a chance of becoming a professional. But I don't think this only applies to people that are aspiring to be professional golfers. I think it applies to any golfer who's trying to get to the next level, right? If you're trying to win your club championship, if you're trying to, whatever it is that you're aspiring to do, whatever objectives you have for golf, if you're serious about improvement, you have to go from having an amateur mindset to a professional mindset. Next paragraph is, to be clear, when I say professional, I don't mean doctors and lawyers, those of the professions. I mean the professional, notice the capital P here, as an ideal. The professional in contrast to the amateur. Consider the differences. So before we move on here, I just want to note the capital P on professional. So professional as an ideal, professional as a mindset, right? Again, this isn't necessarily literally becoming professional. It can be just having a professional mindset in the way that you approach the game. So the differences between amateur and professional. Amateur plays for fun, the professional plays for keeps. Now, let's be careful here. Obviously, we should be having fun on the golf course. Even if you're aspiring to become a professional golfer, even if it becomes your job, even if it's how you feed your family, if you're no longer having fun on the golf course, you are not going to last. It's going to be too difficult, right? If it feels too much like a grind, if you're out there struggling all the time, it's going to be really hard to perform at your best. That said, if you're having too much fun, what that can mean is you're not taking it seriously enough. So I think you have to find that balance between having fun and taking it seriously and finding whatever it is that works for you. It can be you're having fun, but when you need to lock in and get serious, you're able to do that. All right, so you have to find that balance between having fun and being serious when you're on the golf course. To the amateur, the game is his avocation, and to the pro, it's his vocation. I actually had to look this up. I never heard avocation before. So avocation is a hobby. Vocation is a job, right? So for the amateur, it's a hobby, something they do for fun, something they do when they have time. The professional, it's a vocation. It's something that you take seriously. It's something that you have to have a certain level of discipline in order to perform, okay? The amateur plays part-time, the professional full-time. Now, this is the part where a lot of people are gonna be, hey, I have a full-time job. I can't turn pro, so I play when I have time. Absolutely, I'm the same way. Look, I don't have 4 to 6 hours a day to dedicate to practicing golf, right? I have to work, I have to teach classes, I have to do all these other things. But I think the idea here is, even if you're just trying to get better and become the best golfer that you can be with absolutely no aspirations of becoming a professional golfer, there's still little things that you can do every day, right? So if you just show up on Sunday mornings and play around with your buddies and then put the clubs away and you don't take them out until the next Sunday, don't expect improvement, right? But if instead, let's say you have 30 minutes a day that you're able to dedicate to practice, it can be as simple as working on your putting at home for 30 minutes on a putting mat. It can be as simple as closing your eyes and visualizing yourself playing golf for 20 to 30 minutes while you focus on your breathing. It can be a 30-minute workout. There's always something you can be doing to continuously improve. It doesn't have to be 4 to 6 hours of practice. Now, obviously, if you're trying to make a living playing golf, well, that's what you have to commit to. But there's levels to this. I think what this means to me, a full-time commitment, means that I'm willing to commit to having a professional mentality full-time, even if I don't have the actual physical time to practice as much as I would like. The amateur is a weekend warrior, the professional is there 7 days a week. So it's exactly what I was saying, is a weekend warrior will roll in on Sunday, do the best that they can, put the clubs away, take them out the following Sunday. The professional mindset is that if I have to choose between watching TV for an hour or working on my game, I'm gonna choose working on my game. If I'm feeling lazy that day, if I'm tired that day, well, maybe I'll do something low energy, but that still helps me improve. There are so many ways that we can improve at golf, physical, technical, and mental, right? So every single day there is something that you can do to improve your game, all right? Even if you don't have time to go to the driving range, even if you don't have access to amazing practice facilities, there's always something that you can do to maintain that professional mindset. The word amateur comes from the Latin root meaning to love. The conventional interpretation is that the amateur pursues his calling out of love, while the pro does it for money. Not the way I see it. In my view, the amateur does not love the game enough. If he did, he would not pursue it as a sideline, distinct from his real vocation. So again, this is, I think, more geared towards the amateur who's actually looking to become a professional, but it's still, we're coming back to this idea of mentality, right? Sure, you love golf, you love playing golf, but are you willing to do the work to improve at golf? And again, I'm not judging anyone here. If you're really happy just playing with your buddies and not really bringing down those scores and not really improving, and you're doing it purely for social reasons and because you love being outside and you love the game, that's amazing. But having worked with a lot of golfers recently and having gone through this myself, if you get frustrated by your performances, that's when you have to make a decision. Whether you stay amateur and you keep that amateur mentality, but stop getting frustrated, or do something about it, right? So if you're meeting resistance, if you let resistance win and you're okay with that, go for it. But if you're facing resistance and you're getting frustrated when you're not getting the results that you want, that's when you have to make that switch. That's when you have to decide, okay, you know what? I'm gonna do something about this and I want to improve. And I'm gonna create a growth mindset instead of an amateur mindset, right? Amateur versus pro. The professional loves it so much, he dedicates his life to it. He commits full time. And again, full time doesn't have to be the amount of hours that you spend. It can also just be the mindset that you adopt. That's what I mean when I say turning pro. Resistance hates it when we turn pro. So this part I really like, because resistance in this book is made to be like the enemy, right? It's this thing that's constantly trying to tear us, to bring us down. It's this thing that's constantly trying to get in the way. Fear, doubt, stress, anxiety. All of these things it often feels like they're working against us. They're preventing us from getting to the next level. It can be as simple as being on the golf course and feeling super nervous that you're not going to be able to pull off the shot that you're trying to hit. That's resistance. So what happens is you tighten up, you don't get your best swing in, and you end up missing the shot because you let resistance win. So maybe you need to develop a pre-shot routine. Maybe you need to work on your breathing and your ability to manage that stress. Or maybe you need to put in more practice to get better at the shot you're trying to hit so you feel more confident when you're faced with that challenge. So there's so many different ways that we can work on developing the tools that we need to face resistance when we're meeting it, on the golf course, off the golf course, or anywhere in life. So the book goes on with tons more examples, and I highly recommend this book if you are trying to go from this amateur mindset to this professional mindset. But the main lesson I want people to take away from this is whatever it is you're trying to do in golf, like I said, whether you're just trying to lower your handicap, win your club championship, or get to the PGA Tour, you have to, at some point, make that switch from having an amateur mindset to a professional mindset. You have to be willing to commit to the work. You have to commit to the process. And at some point decide, if you're not willing to do the work, stop expecting improvement. And if you are willing to do the work, make sure that you maintain that professional mindset and that you're willing to do whatever it takes to push back against resistance to get to the next level.